It's October 20th meeting of the LGBTQIA plus commissioners meeting. I'm going to share my screen. Can everybody see that?
I can.
Yes.
So Billy, I guess the first order of business is the roll call.
Yes, so we currently we have these commissioners present, Denise DeSimone, Jan Hammond, Billy Heilman, Sue Kerr, Lenny Orbovich, Shantae Porter, Christopher Robinson, Marcus Robinson, and Sarah Rosso. So we have reached quorum. I will keep track to see if any other commissioners arrive.
Okay. The first order is the approval of the September 15th minutes. Any changes?
And I'll make a motion to adopt the minutes.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? So those meeting minutes will be adopted. So on to the reports of the officers, boards, and standing committees. First for the co-chairs.
Okay, the Pirates quarterly meeting, I have reached out to the Pirates and they had asked me to give them some dates, which I did. I have not yet heard back from them. Their season ended, I think, a little early, and hopefully we'll get some more information from them. So I hope that we can meet with them before the end of the year. The LGBTQ liaison in the Pittsburgh Police Department, Sarah, Marcus, and I put together a request, which we sent by email to the acting chief, Thomas Stangrecki, and asking him to fill this position because it exists and it was filled until April, and so it's been vacant. We did not get a response. I didn't expect to quickly, but we'll continue to follow up with that. And also ask the mayor's office about their plans to have a liaison in the Department of Public Safety in general. The third item is Marcus's. I don't know if you can see the agenda.
Sue, is that two different things when the way you said that, liaison in general, is that different than what you're reaching out to Chief Stangrecki about?
Yes,
Okay.
Maria had previously indicated that they would be appointing a liaison in the Department of Public Safety. That person could be a civilian. The police have a liaison role already that was occupied by Commander Eric Holmes, and he left in May. So we're asking, we want that filled. The position at the Department of Public Safety would be something separate and would be a new position or a new role for somebody who's already there. It's important that we have a police officer because they have access to lots of databases that no civilian in the city can access. And also because they have rapport with the other officers who we need to communicate with. So
the status right now is that the commission has again reached out to Chief Stangrecki and you're waiting for a response. And similarly to the mayor's office regarding the Department of Public Safety position or new role.
well, we did not send a message to them. That would be something Maria would address in an update, I would hope, but we may need to specify that in the minutes, that we are specifically asking Maria to update us on that decision.
Should those two liaisons be separated?
Well, I don't know, just from my knowledge of the city, a police command staff as a liaison, I don't know if they would be able to represent the entire Department of Public Safety, maybe. But, you know, these are pretty hierarchical departments, so somebody who's a civilian but a manager in the Department of Public Safety may, I don't know. We'd have to ask Maria, but I'm just speculating. I am saying, though, I advocate that the police have an actual police officer as a liaison. I think, you know, as we're seeing increases in crime incidents, and then just the shooting that just happened on the north side this past weekend, 2 civilians were killed. I mean, it's well, 3 people were killed. I'm sorry, not 2, 3. That this is something that we need to have access to, so we could prevent that hopefully from happening in our community.
In the meeting with Mayor Gainey, we're also waiting on a response.
That's Marcus.
That's my update. And yeah, I reached out to one of the staffers in the mayor's office to get that moving. So hopefully you're going to hear back later this week for an update there, but no update right now.
May I raise something, Denise, at this point?
Sure.
We talked via email that we need to talk about the way that the Mayor Gainey's administration is communicating with us. I'm not sure if this is the appropriate place, or if there's a different point in the agenda that would be something we should discuss. Because it might be new business.
Yeah, I think it belongs in new business, because I think it's going to be a longer conversation. If everybody agrees, I mean, we can just talk about it now. I mean, what do you think?
Waiting is fine.
Okay, so let's move on to the secretary's report.
Yeah, I emailed to each of you, but it was just prior to the meeting, so I'm expecting that you haven't had a chance to look at it, and I'm not expecting that you have. What I'm doing is proposing a bylaws change that would assist us somewhat with reaching quorum, not greatly, but somewhat. It would do 2 things. What I'll do is just tell you about it shortly here so that we don't take a lot of time on this packed agenda. You have it in your email with a brief explanation, and then unless somebody comes up with a better idea, I'll make a motion to adopt the bylaws change at the November meeting. But in short, what it would do is it would just simply not include 3 seats when we calculate quorum, either in whether the person is present, or most importantly, in the total number of commissioners. And that would be the representative from the mayor's office, the city council member, and the representative from the Commission on Human Relations. And the reasons for proposing this are 2. One, the first one is that one of those 3 persons has expressed that he didn't believe that his role required attendance at every monthly meeting, that he was in an advisory role, which is, you know, perfectly fine. Our bylaws did not exist when the city council member was appointed to the commission, but that's how he views it. And then the other, so it's out of respect also for these positions, city official positions that have a requirement by their role, but but, and didn't, do this as the way most of us did by putting our name in and then accepting an appointment. So it's being respectful of that point of view of at least one of the three seats that I and identifying. The other part of it is that if the busyness or the perception of the role by these persons is so great that they aren't regularly in attendance, it does affect whether we reach quorum. And so this will, to a degree, I won't say small or large, it's certainly not large. It will affect our ability to reach quorum each month. So the document that I sent to you just modifies the definition of quorum, where it's a simple majority of the members accept the commission seats of the representative of the mayor's office, member of city council, and the representative of the Commission on Human Relations. But it would not affect in any way their voting power, their authority to vote when they're present on any motion. So that's the idea, to try to alleviate with those three would be from the total. We have 16 commissioners right now, so that only 13 would be counted as the total, and we would need 7 to reach quorum. Tonight, we needed 9. And we only have one of those 3 persons here.
I mean, I think that's a reasonable change, and, I did get it, and I'll look at it, Billy, as soon as we're done.
Yeah, Jam has his hand up, and I will, we certainly should entertain discussion now, since I'm putting it on the. But I will, when I make a motion, we'll have a discussion also prior to adoption, and that can't happen until November. But anyway, that's.
Jam?
I was gonna ask, is it motion first and discussion second, or not? But let me ask, and I apologize for not knowing. So is there quorum now based on a percentage of commissioners? And then if we were to say those 3 positions aren't used in the quorum calculation, could they then not be used to say that we've met quorum? 2 questions.
Yes, so right now, the definition of quorum is a majority of the commissioners. So it's just, we got to get more than 50%. So we have 16 commissioners right now. And so we have to get a majority, which means we have to get more than 8. So we have to have 9. So when there's an even number, it's a little just slightly harder to get to quorum. But when there's an odd number, it's slightly easier. So that's the first part. That's the first definition. That's how we did it tonight and how we've done it since we instituted this in August of 21. So what this change would be is just simply that those 3 wouldn't count. So we would, for example, tonight, if it was that way, we would have counted 13 people, and then we would have had to have 7, which would be a majority of that 13 in order to have quorum. Is what it would. But I didn't make a motion tonight, so we're having a more of an informal discussion on this. So the order of motion and discussion is, of course, motion first, discussion second, but this is sort of an informal, just explaining what I'm presenting, and we can have the formal discussion after a motion next time, if there's a second, of course.
I have a follow-up, but if anyone else has something else.
No, go ahead.
So if we were to vote on this, or let me just say, I am going to note conflict of interest, and I probably would recuse myself from a vote. And I think that it's obviously important for the commission to be able to meet quorum. So this may be the only way. I am maybe a little bit disappointed in the idea that we would have to go this particular route. I think that it's not as though we're waiving an attendance requirement for these three. So that's not what we're doing. It feels a little bit like it just is very important that we have those three people in the conversation. And it is not always the case that we do have those people. And I think, I don't know, I think it's maybe a little bit disappointing, but obviously I've had my absences, so there's only so much I can say about it, but that's all I have to say.
I don't disagree with you, Jim. I mean, I think for the representative that doesn't feel that he's anything but an advisor, I think that's kind of on the side. But it is very disappointing that, you know, we set this up to have different representation and we can't every week, every meeting, it's a struggle to meet quorum. So I think unfortunately, I mean, you have to do, in my opinion, you know, you kind of have to do what you have to do to get it moving forward. But it is disappointing. I agree.
Yeah.
Any other questions about the bylaws? Comments? So as Billy said, he sent those. It should be in everybody's email, and we'll take a look at those and then vote on them in the November meeting. Next is a treasurer's report, and I know Guillermo's not able to make it. He's getting an award. But there is a line item in the mayor's budget for a part-time employee for the commission. But I reviewed that document a few times, and I think that was the only reference to this commission that there was, unless I missed something. Did anybody see anything?
No, I read through it too, and I didn't, but I couldn't find allocations for any commission really.
You know, they were tucked into different departments. And so it seemed to me like what was happening was they were allocating a certain percentage from everybody, and wherever it fell, it fell. I mean, I didn't put that budget together, but that's what it felt like.
Well, I think the mayor's right now doing a listening tour on the budget. So it's a good time for us to weigh in. And I think that we need a part-time staff person. There's a line item for an intern, and we need funding for operations, something at least. And on that topic, I hope that we have some say in the hiring of the staff person and the intern.
Yeah, I mean, I forget what department we fell under. But I think it's definitely a request we can make.
And we need to find out where the money from this year went, because Bruce told us that it's in the budget, that there's money. We're not really sure what it's for. I don't know if he specified that much, but where is that money, and can we spend it by the end of this year? I mean, are we allowed to? Because Maria seemed pretty firm that there is no funding for us.
Yeah, I'll review last year's budget and see if it was listed and if there was an amount there.
Billy, was it right that Bruce said it was, the clerk told him that it was in the budget.
Yes, Bruce Kraus reported to me that he had confirmed that there were funds allocated to the commission for the current fiscal year. They've been elusive from our point of view, but that is what Bruce Kraus affirmed.
Well, I mean, maybe we should just send Bruce an email and ask him. You know, it should be in the budget of last year if it was allocated, because they'd have to be operating on that. So I'll look at that. I'll take a note here and look at that budget and see if it falls anywhere.
Uh,
I'm looking, oh, go ahead, Jan.
So the LGBTQIA plus commission in the 2022 budget has a part-time position here. It has there's an intern position that's 10,000. It's in the Office of Equity. I don't know about the 2023 budget proposal.
That's the same as the 2023 proposal. What's in the 2022 budget?
Okay, and they have a part-time employee that's like 40,140.
Yeah, that and an intern for $10,000.
Got it. And it'll be combined with like gender equity, and they'll share that. Okay.
Wait, does that mean the person is going to be paid $40,000 total, or that our portion would be 40,000 and then they would be paid $80,000, which is more than some members of council make?
It could be,
Jeez.
although that would be below what other executive directors make at the city.
They would be an executive director?
That was the previous position title, was executive director for Gender Equity Commission. I don't know what they are planning to have the title be under the new structure where it's split with two different commissions.
Okay, if it's on par with that level of authority, I can see the salary. It's a shame we didn't have the person this past year.
Well, you don't know that it's a salary. It could include the benefits. It could be the total allocation for the costs of the position.
But the fact remains, if nobody was hired, there's budget money available. And, you know, perhaps some of these initiatives that we want to do for 2023 can be funded with that excess budget. So maybe whoever Guillermo's talking to at the city, he can request, see if there's something that we could do to utilize that unallocated budget, if there is any.
Well, I think we need to be clear that money's in the budget. I mean, we have to look at it ourselves, but I don't think the city clerk would lie to a member of council about that. So and Jam has his eyes on it now. So
Right.
that money's there. And if we've been denied it, coupled with other things that are going on, that is part of a pattern. That is something we can discuss maybe later in the agenda, but we may not be able to use the money, but the fact that it wasn't provided to us is a very serious issue.
Yeah, I mean, there's 2.5 months left to the end of the year. So if we get something, that would be great. Next on the agenda is the outreach coordinators report. I'll send out another invite for the working group with a new Zoom link. And Billy, I did see some of your comments, some of your emails come back today that I haven't had a chance to look at. So for me, the goal is to have this report, this social media policy back to everyone so they could read it before that November meeting. In working with the working group and see if we can get that adopted. I know that's aggressive, but that's my goal.
I think we could do that. Can you send me that link too?
Yep,
Thank
I'll
you.
send it out to everybody and whoever wants to participate. So on to the reports of the special committees. Municipal Ordinance Working Group.
Okay, so we have a working group, I'm sorry, we have a training set up for Wednesday. We have 7 speakers from across the state. And unfortunately, we do not have any communications from the city on how we will broadcast that event and or will preserve it, because one of our intents was to have it available for people to watch down the road if they were considering this process. It was meant to be a permanent resource. Because we don't have that communication back from the city, and we've, the recommendation is that we postpone this workshop and try to get the city to communicate with us. And I just want to, go on the record here saying, I know that I have made repeated attempts. I've called, emailed, reached out. I know that others here have done the same. And this has been for over a month. We were told that it's not an official meeting, so it's not something that, the city was going to record for us. And what we wanted to do was ask if we recorded ourselves, if they would add it to the YouTube channel. That's all we were asking. And we couldn't get an answer. We didn't even get an acknowledgement that we were asking that question, which is incredibly disappointing. We've been discussing this since April. It's been in every agenda, every set of meeting minutes. There is just absolutely no excuse to say that people are not aware that this is a priority. And given what's been happening locally with the radio ad and what's happening in Beaver County and all of these things, it's very sad that this vital resource to help get more non-discrimination policies passed is going to be delayed and I'm sure we're not going to be able to do it this year. I mean, getting people back together and I'm very frustrated and disappointed with the mayor's administration on this matter. So it's officially postponed. And I guess we'll convene to discuss when we can organize it again. And I would welcome any feedback.
I also have tried, and I think it does lend itself to a bigger issue that we can discuss later, but we have to know what the boundaries are. I mean, as I told you guys, I can host a webinar on an account. I have an account with webinar availability. So, if they can host it, we should just get at least the approval to have them upload it. So, yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I think we've got to postpone it unless anybody sees it differently.
Well, I'd like to just clarify, because this is official city business, I can't just put it on my blog. We can't just put it on Facebook. We
Right.
can't see a YouTube channel. We have really no other options that, especially because we don't have policies in place yet about those things. So
Right.
there is no option except for the city to host it on the YouTube channel.
Does anybody have any other feedback, comments?
Well, I do. I have a little bit. I think that we do need to have an understanding with the city, whoever that might be. I'm not sure it's the mayor's office, but it may be the mayor's office, but some entity to understand what, what they can provide for us. I mean, it's somewhat of a new era for the city in that so many things are virtual since the COVID-19 pandemic, that so many things are hosted that way. So the apparatus of the city was, sort of expanded in some ways because of that reality. And it can't just be infinite or, without limit that a city commission just creates events and does things and then the city hosts it in some way. I think that there's going to have to be an understanding of what the city's capacity and charges and as well as ours. And I don't think that that has been worked out yet. And I do think that we're going to have to, we've talked about it since April, but we didn't notify the city in April that we were going to have an October 26th event. And so they didn't have notification for that at that length of time. So I think that there's, I am disappointed too that we haven't been able to work this out, but I think that there is some work that we need to do in terms of having a common understanding in what the city can provide and what that matches hopefully what we intend to do. But I do agree that this particular event seems to be in the realm of things that they could host.
I think, one thing I will always, offer is that whatever the Commission on Human Relations can offer, we would love to be a help. We do have our own YouTube channel. We do have, we do recordings, but I think one thing that we can't, give is the same as the city's endorsement and being included in the same, in the same channel as the rest of the city. So while, I would be happy to host anything, through the Commission on Human Relations, it's not exactly the same as having the city put it on their YouTube channel and the LGBTQIA plus commission being on the same level with the rest of the city departments that are within the administration. So always open to being a help as the Commission on Human Relations, but I recognize the importance of us being recognized in that way as the LGBTQIA plus commission.
I think that it is reasonable to expect members of this commission to respond to email when asked for information about their role. If they're the liaison, they need to answer email at some point, not just leave it hanging. I understand that can be delays. I understand, this is a delicate issue because it's another commissioner, but the reality is that's part of the responsibility because we don't have a staff liaison. So unfortunately, the commissioner has double duty. But frankly, historically, I've blogged through 6 different administrations and their communications have always been problematic, that there's just no response. And you don't know if that's simply because they don't have an answer or they don't want to answer or they just lost the message. And it's an ongoing challenge for them, but it is not okay to disregard a commission formal inquiry, official inquiry, I should say. And I think that should be not an immediate response, but a response. I mean, it's been a month.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. And Jam's comments too.
I agree with you, Sue. And by the way, if I've ever not responded, I apologize for that. as well. I know I can be not so responsive over email, but I do want to be, do what I can for the commission. So if I've ever done that, I apologize.
I'm not aware that you have, and I agree with you that we have to be careful about precedent. And I think that we need to get our things hosted in the official way. And if that means that we have to delay them, then unfortunately, we'll all have to live with the consequences of that.
Yeah, the meeting with the mayor's office is going to be important to us because we have a lot to discuss. So on to unfinished business, the plumbing code issue. Is this something that we think needs to stay on the agenda?
Well, I think that our feeling was that, we could remove it from the agenda, but I don't think that there was an interest in removing our attention to the issue of the details of and understandings of the plumbing code and how things affect whether, in the near future, there's a move towards all gender restrooms, either as a requirement for new businesses or, whatever the requirements might be. But I think that we didn't want to remove it from the agenda as that we're removing our attention from the issue. And there also was the issue of, although I think this one is kind of now dated, the treatment that at least one person received at a public meeting, although we're not, pursuing that. But I think that I think in the executive committee, we can remove it from the agenda and not have it on there. But we, at this last executive committee meeting, decided to leave it on the agenda. But I don't know that there are any updates to report.
Maybe we should call it something other than unfinished business, because that seems like we haven't done something as opposed to we're continuing to monitor it.
Well, this is the standard format for an agenda under Robert's rules and other commissions and organizations use. So if you bring something to the table and then you don't complete it, it remains on the agenda until it's disposed of. So your idea of removing it from the agenda, that might be better than redefining our agenda items. But I think that we could do either, whatever the
Yeah,
commission.
no, I couldn't remember if we talked about leaving it on or taking it off. That's why I brought it up. So yeah, let's
talk about it at the executive committee about how we want to handle this, because we don't want to drop we don't want to drop our attention to the issue that's behind just the 3 words plumbing code issue.
yeah. So if there's not any updates to that, let's move on to the new business, which is anti-transgender radio ads. So I don't know if everybody's aware, but there's some really terrible ads that are floating out there. I know Sue sent a few emails regarding the ads.
Well, Denise, we still have B and C in unfinished business. If we want to we want to treat them the same way as plumbing code, but.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought there was not that you said there was nothing on the other ones as well. So
No, I didn't say that. I was
sorry.
I don't know if there's things on the other ones.
Okay. So B is how to connect community organizations to culturally competent LGBTQIA plus resources. Subcommittee.
This was something Guillermo brought up. And I think we had asked him to start a committee,
Yeah,
working group.
Yeah, that's why the subcommittee, I'm remembering now from our executive committee, that is why we have subcommittee in the parentheses that that our view was that this should go to a subcommittee and would not be on a regular meeting agenda until subcommittee had an opportunity to do some work on this.
and C is the History Month and other LGBTQIA days and commission calendar.
I was going to work on the History Month statement. Unfortunately, the radio piece has consumed all of my time, so I have not been able to do that. And I haven't had time to pool all the days of visibility and awareness to add to a calendar. I think we talked about you, Denise, setting that up. Okay.
So I could definitely set up the calendar. I can work with you, Sue, on that.
I think I hope everyone understands, I think that addressing the radio ads is more urgent than putting together a statement on history. I just can't do both.
Any other comments on the unfinished business? So with that, we can move on to new business with the anti-transgender radio ads. So you want to update everybody on what's been happening since you've got the most current information?
Yes, a week ago, the eight biggest radio stations in Pittsburgh accepted an ad buy. They accepted advertising from the American Legal Foundation, which is created by Stephen Miller. It's a right-wing extremist political action group. And it's a 30-second ad that is horrific in terms of terrorizing and demonizing transgender children. And I sent a copy in one of the email as long with the transcript. It's hateful and I did not want to share that, but I think it was important for people to have a chance to listen to that. So a group of people have been working on this. The Pittsburgh Pride group has banned all of those radio stations from participating in 2023 Pride events completely. They can't come, they can't cover it, they can't have a booth, they can't do anything. And we began working on trying to get the ads pulled, and it's been like pulling teeth. We 96.1 KISS was the first station to pull the ad because their 4 major on-air talents refused to do their shows unless they pulled the ad. And so kudos to them for putting their jobs on the line, literally, for trans kids. Q92 pulled the ad yesterday, really technically today. And I'm not sure what the motivation was. And this afternoon, Whammo pulled their ad after the Pittsburgh Public Schools negotiated that with them. And, Billy and Lenny were both very involved in that. So that leaves 5 stations. That's WDBE, 105.9 The X, Y108, 99.7 Wish, and KDKA. All that we know at this point is that it's on the AM KDKA. We don't know if they're broadcasting it on their FM station or their 93.7 The Fan station. We don't know if it's been on other stations because we're relying on people hearing it to tell us. And it's, it needs to come down. We need to talk about long-term harm and trauma that was caused by this decision. All of these stations heard that ad and they decided to run it. And that's a real problem. I'm grateful they're pulling it, but I don't want to give them that's not cover to hide from the fact that there are kids, parents reaching out to me, telling me, their kids are in the car, they're driving, the ad comes on, they can't reach the dial. And it's just absolutely heinous. So we have 5 radio stations to go, and we need everyone who knows anyone to pull all stops to get those ads off the air. KDKA is trying to hide behind the FCC fairness doctrine, which doesn't even really exist anymore. That doctrine, though, applies only to federal campaign ads. This is not a campaign ad. This is a hate ad. Technically it would be considered an issue ad. So there's no FCC doctrine that says you have to say true things or that, give fair time. But this ad is hurting our community. It's certainly hurting trans folks, but it's also indoctrinating a lot of people with just vile information that is not true. I'm sure it has ties to the upcoming election, but I don't think we can afford to wait with what we know about how vulnerable our community is. So we have on my blog, I have a list of phone numbers for all the stations. Calling is important. If I would ask that each commissioner please do that, because it's an important step. And if you know somebody that knows somebody at these stations, we're reaching out to the Pirates, reaching out to the Penguins, trying to, get all the allies we can to take some action. But it's exhausting, and I'm really stunned that after 96.1 pulled it, that the others didn't follow suit. Why are they clinging to this? How much money are they getting? I would really love any feedback, please.
As I told you, Sue, I reached out to KDKA, and I will call them back tomorrow and see what I can do there. I don't know anybody at the other stations, but I'm happy to make some calls.
I don't know anyone personally. All the press people that I know from working as the commission. One thing that I can do is reach out to, when I say the commission, I meant CHR. One thing I can do is reach out to my commissioners as my supervisors to find out if they would object to me reaching out to the people who I know as executive director of the commission to pull the ad. I'll do that tonight. I also approached them about CHR making a statement, which they're in support of. So we're going to make a statement, but our statement probably won't be as powerful as another statement. It will essentially condemn hate and discrimination, but not specifically mention the stations playing the ad. The only other thing that I have to say is, thank you, Sue, for all the work that you're doing on it. And, as somebody who has placed a radio ad before, I know the process, and I know that they all heard it before they put it on the air, which I think is like the most shocking thing to me, is you listen to it and you said like, okay, that's fine, and put it on the air.
Has everyone listened to it or read the transcript that I sent?
Yep.
I haven't heard it.
Okay, Shantae, there's a email thread that says radio ads in the subject line. And it's a YouTube link that it's embedded that has the ad in it.
Okay.
It's pretty horrible.
You may or may not want to hear it even. I mean, the way that I found out about it, because I don't watch the news very much, is I had to get an Uber to go home, and it came on the radio when I was in the Uber, and I did not even know what to do. I was like, what is this station? And then it started playing normal music. And I was like, what really is this station?
I'm sorry that happened to you, Jan.
Yeah, I'll just add that I've heard the ad as well, and which is really just shocked to hear it. And again, just a comment that was made most recently about the radio stations hearing the ad before actually airing it is just even more shocking. And it just really took me aback, just considering that, you know, the week before we just really finished up the Trans Health and Pride conference as well, really doing a lot of great stuff in the community. And here we go. And I'm certainly sure that it's definitely connected to the election. But again, I'm not sure, you know, what can be done to be able to prevent future occurrences from happening, or, you know, what legal things may be associated with that. But again, you know, I don't know if there's a way to be able to hold those radio stations accountable for that, or what we could potentially do. But again, it shouldn't have occurred, and it's just it's horrific. It's horrifying. It's really sad. Really sad.
Well, I think we should issue a statement, and we should do it soon, like within 24 hours. And so I think that, you know, I mean, I penned one for the Pittsburgh Federation of Teachers, and it got a lot of response from media when it was sent out. And
It's very powerful. Thank
and
you
it-
for that, Billy.
yeah, and we learned, not that it's the only effort, it wasn't the only effort, of course, regarding WAMO, but we learned shortly after, you know, it went out around 10 a.m. and then it was midday, a little later than midday, that we were informed that WAMO had dropped it. But it included we identified the radio stations that we believed were confirmed. And I think this commission should identify the ones, as long as we're accurate. We got to be accurate on when we put a business's identifier into a statement and release it. We definitely have to be accurate. So we do personally know some stations that we've heard it on, but I think we should list them. And we know some of the ones that have dropped it, that were playing it and dropped it, like WAMO, which is, you know, we don't want to like applaud them, as Sue said earlier, too loudly, because they shouldn't have done it in the first place. But it still is a good thing that they have dropped it. But I think we should do that. And you know, how we do that, I can start it, and anytime we want to you know, figure out how to issue the statement or empower the co-chairs as spokespersons to send it out, whatever we do, I think we should, and within 24 hours. And this isn't just about the election. I'll say, I mean, it's not, yeah, it's probably, you know, yeah, there's an election coming up, but this is about a fascist movement that is in our country and around the world. And they're using queer people, in particular, transgender people, non-binary people, they're using them as pawns, and it's horrific and terrifying, and we have to stand up to it loudly. It's not just whether Mastriano gets elected or not. That's not what it is. It's far bigger than that.
We also need to decide what we're going to do, because we can put a statement together, and I think absolutely we should. I think that we can confirm the radio stations, because the city paper ran an article listing those stations, and none of them said, no, we don't have the ad up. So there's that tacit confirmation there. But what are we going to do if they don't pull the ads? Are we going to take action? Are we going, well, do they care? I don't think they care what we think, or they wouldn't have run the ads. So what do we do? What to follow up a statement? Do we go to the radio stations? My folks are thinking they want to go with our Protect Trans Youth signs and put them up and, you know, call the media and just go from station to station doing that. But I don't know if that would work. Billy, you're the expert on this.
Well, you know, so we're a city commission. We're a city commission, and I think that we can, you know, we can lead with our words. We can participate in actions that might evolve, but we're not a direct action group. You know, we're not that. I think that we're going to have to think about what we might do as individuals and what we might be comfortable with as a group if we're going to do direct action protests. But we have a platform. This is being live streamed. This is going to be recorded. And I think if this commission issues a strong statement to the media on this issue is getting a lot of coverage, and it's about exposing the media. It's going to the media and it's exposing the media's complicit participation in hate and fascist movement. That's what they're doing. And then they do need to be identified. And yeah, maybe we do need to go to their station, but right now I think we have to lead with the statement. We will get calls on it. We'll get calls on it, and our spokespersons, our co-chairs should respond and be ready to make statements if the media responds to it. And if they don't, then I think we have an issue with the ones who don't respond. But I think we will get a response. But yeah, I'm willing to, to help with a protest movement on this too. But I don't know that that's the commissioner's charge, the commission's charge necessarily. Maybe it is.
I do think that we should look at how the city interacts with these radio stations.
Yep.
There are partnerships, and I think those should be terminated if these ads aren't pulled. And I think we should specifically ask department heads not to go on these stations and do interviews. Mayor Gainey for sure, but all of them, and a citywide response to the decisions that they've made. I don't know if that's something that would require a motion for us to recommend that, or is that I can propose a motion saying that we recommend that the city not participate in any kind of public relationship with these radio stations.
If that was a motion, I would second it.
And that would be including interviews, promotional sponsorship, interactions. Am I missing anything else that should be in there? I'm not saying they shouldn't have them come to the press conferences. I'm saying that no one should give them an exclusive interview.
I have to get the motion accurately. For the minutes, I need to know there's a motion and a second, so I need to, the motion is that the city not participate in any relationship with radio stations that air this ad.
The 5 radio stations that are currently airing this ad.
Well, how about any? Because
Yes, because we don't know who else. And that would include appearances on any shows.
how long you want your motion to be? You don't have to give all the examples.
Well, I just want to be very clear about that, because that's where those shows get prestige, is having guests come on and talk about important people come on and talk. So.
All right, so any relationship I think would include that, but if you want some examples in the motion, then go ahead.
I would say interviews, promotional relationships, sponsorships.
And the motion is for the commission to recommend that to, I suppose, the mayor's office, city council, and all department heads.
I mean, look, it's not going to be too long till the police are going in to talk about Toys for Tots. We've got the KDKA turkey fund. People go to, I mean, these are things that exist and they're important and they should happen, but hopefully they can be used as pressure points to get these ads pulled. We certainly don't want to derail those efforts, but.
I think it was, Sue, you had first mentioned taking action. That would have been my recommendation, would be to make a recommendation. When we do recommendations, do we do them publicly?
I would think so.
We could issue our recommendation as a press release.
Yeah. It could be part of our statement. Maria has told us that the mayor is planning to respond to this.
She did say that.
Now, we have not heard if city council is planning to respond to this. We could ask.
Has anyone heard of Councilman Strasburger saying anything on this?
No,
No,
No.
I haven't.
but she could have. I think this is an example of something we should contact every member of council to ask them if, make sure they're aware of it. And that here's, what we're calling for. And ask them to respond.
All right, so we have a motion that has been seconded, that the city of Pittsburgh, including the mayor's office, the city council, and all department heads not participate in any relationship with any radio station that's running the ads, including the 5 that we know are, and that relationship includes interviews, promotional relationships, and sponsorships. There's been a second. You want to discuss further?
I support this motion.
I'm in favor also.
Do we still have a quorum?
I believe so. Yes, we do. We're above quorum. Yeah, Kathy Boyle has joined us, and we also have, there's 3 city folks here, so we're at 10 at this point. I think we can vote, and then we can, should it pass, we can issue that. We can talk about, making calls to city council members and others also. That's separate from this motion, I believe. Denise, do you want to
Yes.
do the call for the vote?
Yep. All in favor?
Aye.
Hey,
Any opposed? Any abstain?
What's up with that dog?
Whose big a dog is that?
Yeah, the dog doesn't like this motion. Good. grief.
He doesn't like the cat.
So the motion's passed, Billy. As far as new business, I think we had talked about, and we've got 10 minutes left, but the situation with communication. We pushed that down to new business. I think there's a overarching feeling that we're not getting responses from the city. The city is not taking this commission as seriously as they should. Does anybody want to comment on that? Anybody have any thoughts? I've personally experienced it. So you wanted to bring some points up on this topic earlier. Would you like to bring up any examples of the lack of communication?
Well, I think we have discussed them, so let's just reiterate. We have the lack of response on the workshop. We have the inadequate information on the budget for 2022 and whether we should have had a staff person by now. We don't have any information on 2023's budget. We found it ourselves, but we were not informed, or we don't know if there's any operational funds. We've had the very odd back and forth about the meeting with the mayor, and that was kind of a disjointed process that it just overall, it seems that there's just a pattern of not really taking us as seriously perhaps as they would other commissions, and treating us with respect that we deserve.
Yeah, and just responding professionally or just responding at all. Does anybody have anything to add on that? I think that was a very good list to everything that we're experiencing. So on to announcements. PA local legislative policy update on anti-LGBTQIA actions.
Lenny, could you quickly mention what happened in Southside School District in Beaver County?
Sure. So Southside Beaver, apparently, like all districts have, has some number of trans students or non-binary students. I'm not sure. They didn't give any specific data, but they've had issues with kids in bathrooms and locker rooms, facilities like that, pronouns, names. So they look to their solicitor to for some guidance, given current case law, and they were told to, while their superintendent at the meeting I attended was very insistent that they have no formal policy. I'm going to use the term policy for lack of a better word, but they were told to use preferred names, preferred pronouns, that they had to provide facilities, etc. So that's what the school district started to do. Apparently, one of the teachers objected to that, refused to call a student or multiple students, I'm not sure, in accordance with their preferred names and pronouns, was disciplined for it. And from what I understand, at the meeting prior to the one I attended, the parents, it sounded like a mob environment from the tone of the conversation at this meeting. It sounded like the one before was pretty crazy. So that meeting was closed. The teacher, after the parent uproar was reinstated. This was a follow-up meeting to that one. I went out and attended it. And I mean, there was plenty of the sort of run-of-the-mill rural conservative nonsense that you would expect, but no, there were no organized protests. There was no shouting and arguing, and it sounds like the real fireworks happened at the previous meeting that I was not in attendance with. But long story short, they're working on, according to their superintendent, they're working on developing a trans policy that will respect what he continually referred to as the values of the community, but also recognizing their responsibility to protect kids. The name of the organization that they're working with, I believe, is the Pennsylvania Family Foundation, or I have it written down in my notes, which when I went and looked, or maybe it was the Family Institute. When I went and looked it up, it's a Christian organization that is not likely to be very helpful in this regard, but this is what this community seems to want, and that's the way it's going. But yeah, it was eye-opening.
Anybody have any comments or thoughts on that?
Well, I commend Lenny for
Yeah.
going to those
Yeah.
meetings, and being able to report to us on them and being, a witness to it,
Thanks, Billy.
because that is important.
We've also been able to get the Beaver County Times and WTAE to cover that story. And the Protect Trans Youth program is working with Central Outreach to get signs and stickers and all that into Beaver County.
When we get the calendar, maybe we can add some of these meetings and other people could go with you, Lenny, and attend.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult to keep up with this without knowing necessarily which school districts are going to have this, or not even this particular issue, but related issues.
Yeah.
Given meeting. I mean, I got wind of this one just because received an email from Sue, as several of us did, about a concern about the previous meeting, and I just took it upon myself to go. But yeah, I mean, it would have been great to have more people with me and have a more organized reason for being there, but I don't know, it just felt like I should go, so I did.
So next on the agenda is remembering members of the community. Chuck Colbert, Maggie Ritchie, Anthony Silvestri, Brian Trusky. I personally didn't know any of these folks, but I think it's right for us to remember these members. And any announcements? Does anybody have any announcements? Anything anybody wants to add?
I would like to add something. The co-chair sent out a round of email today about attendance. And I realized I forgot to sign one or two of them, so I apologize for that. That was a cut and paste error, but we wanted to individually send it, but it was the universal language. So please check your email and confirm with us by Monday if we got it right, what meetings you attended, and if you notified us that you had to miss another meeting. And we'll follow up with individuals who have exceeded the 3 meeting threshold. But please, we really need to hear from everybody. So just reply and let us know that you received it.
Billy, I followed up with you pre-meeting. Does that count?
Any communication counts, right? One thing this commission is going to do, it's going to make sure communication is a priority in this city.
Well, with that, we are 1 minute over, and the meeting is adjourned.